Hey girl, hey, happy Monday. Happy Monday. I can't believe it's Monday again. Seriously. I feel like I say that every week, but honestly, every single time we get to Monday, I feel like time is moving so quickly. Um, it's incredible. We're at the end of the year. We're pretty much at Christmas. We're almost at New Year's. What a time. So hey girl, hey, happy Monday. My name is Olivia Thomas. I am the founder of Wintentional Development Co. and the Busy Girls Brunch, and I am the brand counselor. So I'm helping you go from hustling to wholeness through brand strategy. Before we get into the talk tonight, which is how there is a power in celebration. I want to talk about my webinar on Saturday called Untapped to Unstoppable, which is helping you to reveal all the amazingness in yourself that you kind of push down because other people have told you to push it down. But that's really the key to your real brand story. We are always talking about storytelling and how our story is going to be the thing that makes people work with us and, all of these beautiful things. But what happens if we refuse to tell our real story? If we can't tell our real story, there's no way that we can actually attract the right customer for ourselves, right? Or really even be available for the people who really need us and would resonate with, the truth of our story, our vernacular, our superpowers, all of those things. So, Untapped to Unstoppable is all about that. Getting into the founder philosophies, pulling out that mindset that you have that is unique to you as an innovator and putting it on display for your audience to see so that they can get what they need and you can get what you need as a founder too. Building a business isn't really about building the business. It's about how it can build and support your life. And I want to make sure you can do that. So unstoppable2024.eventbrite.com. I can't wait to see you there. Yeah, so on to the show. Tonight, we are talking about the power of celebration. So every single day, as I am doing my to-do list, I have my to-do list on the right-hand side of the book, and on the left-hand side, I have my celebrations and my wants. So my celebration list is simply a list of things that I did the day before that I want to pat myself on the back for and really say, hey, good job. You did that. And just to remind myself that I'm actually doing something. Because sometimes, we can be so future focused that we forget to even be okay with what we're doing right now. And the funny thing about being future focused is that the future never actually comes, right? Like, even if we get to what we deem the future today, there's always a new future. Meaning, there's always going to be something else that we're going to be reaching for and trying to attain that is not in the here and now, right? And that is just a way to feel unsatisfied. People always say that comparison is the thief of joy. So if you are comparing your right now to this future version of you who doesn't exist and perpetually doesn't exist in comparison to your current self, there's kind of no way to be satisfied with what you're doing, right? They say that anxiety is fear of the future and depression is fear of the past. So there's always this reaching towards something that you may or may not ever reach, or you can never reach within the present. So I think that celebration is something that we should do, and it's going to help us in three ways. So the first thing that celebration does is it helps us to be happy. It helps us to even look at the things that we have going on, the things that we've done in the past, from the past to the present, and helps us to realize just how far we've come, right? So when we look back, we can say, hey, I used to do this, but I do this now. That's a cause for celebration. And you can kind of like live in that, the fact that you have changed from who you were in the past. And yes, you're building toward the future, but the only way you can do that is by looking at the past and saying, these are the things that I objectively did. These are the things that I objectively used to do, who I objectively used to be. This objectively used to happen, but now this is no longer who I am, or I have become something different or even better moving forward. So you can celebrate that. So it gives you a cause to even be happy, right? So happiness is based on things that are happening. And if we want happiness, we have to choose it. And we have to choose it over and over again. And sometimes the present may not look like the happenings that you want it to look like. So you really have to say, like, you know what, in the past, I used to think or feel or be like this. And I'm going to celebrate that I am no longer in that place, or I no longer have that mindset, or I'm even pushing forward in a way that I previously wouldn't have in the past. So the first thing that celebrating yourself gives you is happiness. The second thing that it gives you, it's kind of along the lines of happiness, but to be a little bit more specific, it gives you momentum. So when an object is at rest, it stays at rest. But if it is in motion, it stays in motion, or at least it's more likely to stay in motion anyway. So the only way to stay in motion is to continuously energize yourself. So happiness and celebration creates energy in you. It eventually, if it becomes your almost like your spiritual position to like celebrate and be grateful, like something where you are always looking for the energy of like looking back and celebrating and saying like, hey, this is just who I am. I'm grateful for where I've been and where I am now, and just understanding that that is something that can energize me. That helps you to have momentum, right? Because it helps you to remember that there's always more that you can conquer moving forward, because you've conquered so much in the past. So it gives you momentum. It gives you the ability to keep going. When you're sad, when you stop in, the depression, right? Depression is fear or sadness from the past. When you stop in that, it is really hard to keep going. For so many of us, the issue that we have isn't that the project or the thing that we're working on can't happen. It's just that we get so discouraged by whatever has happened around us as we're doing it that we slow down or we stop completely. We need to maintain momentum in order to even see the progress that we're really looking for. So, happiness and momentum. And last but not least is confidence. So, as we are celebrating the things that we have done in the past, we are recounting our victories. So, confidence is the ability to trust yourself. And the only way you can trust yourself is by actually showing up for the things that you've promised yourself. So, when you can say, hey, you know what, yesterday, the thing that I said I was going to do, I actually did it. And then there are so many tomorrows where that is the case, then you have enough in your trust bank that you will actually trust yourself, right? So when you have that trust in yourself, you have more confidence. So when it's like, hey, I need to do something, you know that you'll get it done, because the likelihood of you doing it, because of what you've done in the past, because of all of the victories you've had, all of the ways you've celebrated, all of the causes you've given yourself to celebrate things happening in the past, you have the confidence knowing that going forward, if this is something that I have to do, even if this is something that's like hard or scary or like currently beyond my reach, I'm going to do it, because I know that if anybody is going to show up for me, it's going to be me. If anybody's going to be able to show up in the ways that I am even saying right now, it's going to be me. So, the ability to confide in yourself, to keep your promises to yourself, is what creates confidence. So, being able to look back at your celebrations, what I like to do is look at the past pages and sometimes just remind myself, sometimes you really have to just like remind yourself who you are. It's almost like looking at your resume, like, man, I did this thing. This grew because of me, blah, 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 blah. Right? It's the same concept. Sometimes you have to look at your yesterdays and say, you know what? I showed up. I showed up. I showed up. And even kind of going back to momentum, sometimes the day isn't good. Like, and that's just the truth. Sometimes the day isn't good. But in that celebration, you get to reframe the day. I can't remember who said it. I think it was an author. I want to say Terry Matthews. She said the beautiful thing about writing is you get to rewrite your life, right? So when you write down your celebrations, you get to be the author of the moment. So even if something in that time, it wasn't so good, you can figure out where you actually continue to show up for yourself and frame the moment in that. right? You're almost like reselling the situation to yourself, right? Because in marketing, we have positioning. And in positioning, we are looking at a context of things to decide how to even talk about a product or a service, right? So sometimes you have to reposition the context in your mind of things that have happened and reframe it in a way that when you look back at it, it's like, man, you know what? That was actually kind of amazing. Because instead of giving up at that point, I said, I'm going to take a nap, take care of myself, and then I'm going to try again tomorrow. Right. So I didn't give up, but instead I took care of myself. I didn't give up, but instead I reached out for help. Right. So sometimes you really have to reframe that. And even that is a cause for confidence because it's like, even when I come to the points of hardship in the things that I'm doing, I know that there's going to be some way that I'm going to get through it. I'm going to be so creative and intelligent that I'm going to get through it on the other side because that's just what I do. And that's the power of reframing, right? So you get to look at your life and you get to say, "Hey, you know what? These really hard, scary things happened, but this happened as well." Right. And honestly, man, sometimes my celebrations for the day is like, I didn't give up. God is good. Breakfast was great. Right. Like sometimes it really is. I don't know. Sometimes it's not even about the thing. It's not even about the actual things that happened in the day, but other things that I can grab onto and say, like, you know what? I'm actually okay. I'm still safe in this moment, right? That's something that I always tell myself, where it's like, you're safe here. So regardless of the circumstances around me, even if I can't find anything else that I can celebrate in the day, there's literally nothing for me to grab onto. I can still say, I'm safe, right? And that right there is still something to celebrate that gives me the momentum, the confidence, the happiness to push forward and move to the next iteration of trying for the next day. So I really hope this was helpful. This is really something that's near and dear to my heart. I remember there was such a period of just like intense depression that I went through after just like a medical situation. Um, it was such an intense period of depression that I went through because frankly, what happened was something that I'd never imagined happening. So I was in bed for a few days and I listened to, I think it was Tabitha Brown's Feeding the Soul and Dan Hardy's Compound Effect. And Shonda Rhimes's Year of Yes. So those are the three books that I like listened to while I was like in recovery. And one of the things that I got from those books, or the thing that I got from those books, was that I need to count every victory and I need to do it in a way where I can see it so that I can say, like, hey, you know what? I set this goal, I did this thing, and I have created more good days than bad days so that the compound is actually the thing that I am going to get on the other side, right? Like it doesn't matter what everything we do compounds. It either compounds positively or negatively, everything we do, right? And that's not, I don't know how to say this. Like that's not a bad thing. That's just it's a very neutral thing. It's just a matter of choice at that point, right? If we know that every action we take compounds positively or toward the goal or away from the goal, that means that we can begin making choices and counting victories and energizing ourselves toward the things that we want to do. And it doesn't mean that when we like fall off or fall away from the goal that we are doomed and we are bad. Another book was, this was before the thing, but another book that I'm telling you, like, it was destined for me to read that book because just the things that year. Another book was Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. Excellent book. She is a shame researcher. If you know me, you know I love talking about shame and being like, you're not bad. Shame is when you believe that you are bad, but instead, sometimes you experience guilt, which means you might have done something bad, and you can always change. You can always like rebound from anything that's happened. But if you believe that you are bad, then you're not going to give yourself the room to actually grow and change and become all the amazing things that you can possibly be, right? So like within that time, I recognize that I can create goals, and some days I am not actually going to move toward the goal. So what I did was I love kettlebells. So I love kettlebells more than cardio. I hate cardio. Ooh, I hate cardio. I should probably like find some cardio that I like and stick to it. But my lord, kettlebells, give me weights. It's great. So what I did was say that I needed to lift 3 times a week, right? And this was my like kind of getting back into myself situation. I needed to lift 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be ideal, but if I lifted 3 times a week at all, fantastic. So what I did was on my whiteboard, there was a little corner where it would say the week, like how many weeks I've done it. So it'd be like a 1 or a 2 or a 3, whatever. And then on top of it, there were just little notches like week 1, 1, 2, 3, week 2, 1, 2, 3. And I came to the point where I wasn't counting real weeks, but I was just kind of counting the notches where it's like, look, as long as I get 3, then I move on to the next week. And then as long as I get 3, then I move on to the next week. And I allowed myself to do that. I allowed myself to kind of like celebrate and gain momentum until I got to the place where I was actually hitting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? Because the consistency that we need in the beginning might not actually be everything falling in order, in exact and perfect order, but just us not giving up quite yet, right? And knowing that we're going to jump back on the horse, right? We're going to jump back on the wagon. Me and my friend would always talk about that. She would say, my wagon's over there, it's on fire. And I'm like, girl, well, grab a fire extinguisher and put it out, because you got to get back in the wagon, get on the horse. And sometimes it really is like that, right? Like it feels like your world is on fire. It feels like everything is just like collapsing and colliding around you. But you can reframe it, right? There's always something to celebrate. You can reframe it, gather yourself. Remember that you are actually in control of your reframing, your view of life. It's actually yours, right? And sometimes that might mean being careful who you talk to, the kind of media that you take in. Like it might mean like a larger life change that you have to get into, right? Because the energy that we take in is going to be the energy that we put out, right? All spiritual positioning is the energy that we take in, it's going to be the energy that we put out, right? So it might mean that you have to operate in a way where you are taking in different information so that you can put out different information. Maybe less gossip mags, or maybe less celebrity news, or maybe less Law and Order SVU. My goodness. Like maybe less trauma media, right? And more things that are a little bit more victorious, so that you can see yourself in those ways as well. Now, this is not me saying there is anything wrong with occasionally taking in something entertaining that's just like off the wall, whatever. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that, again, compound. If the majority of what you take in is negative, the majority of what you even have inside you to put out will be negative. So you have to be careful of those numbers, right? If you're pouring something in, you're going to be able to pour it out. It really is like just that simple. So, again, but simple and easy aren't really the same thing. There has to be some commitment and recommitment to the conditioning that you want to put yourself through. And conditioning is hard, right? If you are doing something and you want to put your body in a place where you are growing and learning and not hitting atrophy, because sometimes you atrophy and then you have to kind of start over, right? Um, you have to commit and you have to recommit. It is what it is. But ultimately, I really hope you take the time every day, or at least every other day, once a week, once a month, right? To just celebrate, to look at everything you've done, everything you've survived, and just everything that's going on in your life, and say to yourself, like, man, I did that. Like, I actually did that. I made it through. I made it beautiful, right? The things that are completely worthy of celebration, that are positive, amazing. Write them down, celebrate, give yourself a high five, whatever it means for you to celebrate. For me, like, writing it down really is like enough right now. I'm like high fiving, my friends and my husband, and just being like, woo, we did it. If there's some other way you need to celebrate, cool, do that. It's your celebration. Like, it's perfectly fine for you to do exactly what you want to do. But make sure you write it down. Writing is so powerful because it makes it real. Writing almost creates reality, right? We have to write the vision and make it plain. And as we write, I don't know, it like takes a new place in who we are. And the more we write it, the more we create a ledger, right? The more we write our story, we become our own griot, right? We get to look back at the history of us and say, man, she's amazing. He's amazing. They're doing this thing. And this is how the legend is made, right? Like, you're a future legend, and you get to write the story of how legendary you have been throughout the entire journey, which is fire. So that's it, guys. I just want to encourage you with the power of celebration to give you happiness, momentum, and confidence. I hope that you celebrate yourself. I hope that you celebrate others. I hope you encourage others to celebrate themselves, because it really is a superpower. Where you are right now is not where you're going to be in the future. Um, but where you are right now is not where you were in the past. And, you know, the past keeps getting generated, right? So so keep doing stuff that you want to celebrate in your tomorrows. All right. Have a great night. I cannot wait to see you next week. I cannot wait to see you on Saturday at Untapped to Unstoppable. I know some of you are untapped talent. Your stories, your messaging, your mission, the world needs who you really are. And I want to help you bring that to the surface so that you can create something outstanding, something fulfilling, and something profitable. We like profitable. So I really hope to see you there. Thank you so much for being here. This one was really fun. I didn't anticipate doing a solo one tonight. I actually had a guest, but unfortunately, things didn't work out for tonight. I'll have her in January. Woot woot. And I cannot wait. But this was fantastic. This was something that was on my heart from yesterday, oddly enough. So it's really great that I even got to come here and talk to you about it. So thank you for being here. Seriously, if you're not a member of the Busy Girls Brunch group, busygirlsbrunch.com. It is a support group for women business owners who are starting, growing, building their businesses and their lives. Ask questions. It's a very supportive group. That is something I actually love about all the women in there. If you ask a question, like, there will be people in there who are ready to talk to you and say, like, hey girl, like, this is what I'm thinking, and give the feedback and all that stuff. So feel free to join the Busy Girls Brunch. It is an amazing group. Again, I'm Olivia Thomas, the brand counselor. Woot woot. And I can't wait to see you again next week. Have a great week. Bye.